Hi, this is for all Rainbow Magic lovers. I'm going to read some of the Rainbow Magic book to you. Ta-da! There it is. Let's start. Natalie the Christmas Stocking Fairy. Natalie the Christmas Stocking Fairy. Natalie the Christmas Stocking Fairy. Map. The Fairyland Palace, Jack Frost Ice Castle, Kirsty and Rachel's Room, Holiday Cottage, Fairyland Christmas Grotto, Road to Ice Castle. Now that map's all done. Jack Frost spell. I'm fed up with Christmas and tinsel galore. This sweet, festive fuss is a drag and a bore. The fairies have fooled me and made me look bad, but this year I'll make them feel silly and sad. This Christmas, no stockings will fill up with toys, no mince pies and candy for good girls and boys. For I have a plan that will take hope away and leave stockings empty this dark Christmas day. The magical mince pie. Chapter 1. Butter and Bother. I love making mince pie, said Rachel Walker, sieving flour and salt into a heavy mixing bowl. Me too, said her best friend Kirsty Tate, opening the jar of mince meat and taking a deep sniff. They have such a Christmassy, spicy smell. She put the lid back on the jar and the girls smiled happily at each other. It was the day before Christmas Eve and they were staying in a cozy holiday cottage in the Sorry guys, just a minute. She put the lid back on the jar and the girls smiled happily at each other. That was just pre-read. I wasn't reading it on purpose twice. It was the day before Christmas Eve and they were staying in a cozy holiday cottage in the country with their families. What? Said Rachel's dog. You're looking forward to Christmas too, aren't you, Buttons? Said Kirsty, leaning down to stroke his shaggy head. What does the recipe say next? Asked Rachel as Kirsty watched her hands. Kirsty turned the page of the recipe book that was propped up on the kitchen counter. Rub the butter in with your fingers until the mixture looks like fine crumbs, she read out. Rachel opened the fridge and then frowned. Kirsty, have you already taken the butter out of the fridge? No, said Kirsty in surprise. That's funny, said Rachel. I was sure we had some. Maybe we put it somewhere else, Kirsty suggested. Let's look around. They hunted high and low, but the butter was nowhere to be found. It was very strange. We'll just have to go to the shops again, said Rachel. But we're miles from anywhere, said Kirsty said with a groan, and it's nearly closing time. Just then, Mr. Tate walked into the kitchen, looking puzzled. Hello, girls, he said. I've just found this pack of butter on Button's bed. Don't you need this to make the mince pies? Yes, exclaimed Kirsty, giving him a delighted hug. Thanks, Dad. Greedy dog, said Mr. Tate with a chuckle, stroking Button's head as he left the kitchen. That's odd, said Rachel, looking down at Buttons. He doesn't even like butter. She rubbed the butter into the flour and then added a little water. Soon she had a ball of golden dough. She wrapped it in cling film and put it in the fridge to chill. Shall we add the secret ingredient too? The mincemeat now, Kirsty suggested. Rachel nodded. Excuse me, guys. Rachel nodded eagerly. It's an old family secret, she said with a smile. Our own kind of magic. The girls giggled happily. They knew more than most people about magic. They were secretly friends with the fairies and had many adventures in fairyland. Kirsty picked up the jar of mincemeat and tried to unscrew the lid. Oh, she said in surprise, it's stuck. I must have tightened it too far when I put it back on earlier. Kirsty tried to open the jar, but it was stuck fast. Let's ask my dad, she said. He's really strong. They hurried through the sitting room. Their parents were playing cards and listening to carols on the radio. Dad, can you undo this? asked Rachel, holding out the jar of mincemeat. We think Kirsty tightened it too much earlier. Mr. Walker had to use all his strength to open the jar. At last it popped open and he handed it back to Rachel. You must be stronger than you think. You must be stronger than you look, Kirsty, he said with a laugh. The girls hurried back to the kitchen. Sorry, guys, have to stop it again. Keen to add the secret ingredient, but when they reached the doorway, they stopped in amazement. What's happened? Kirsty cried. All the drawers and cupboards were open, and there was flour all over the kitchen. The doll was sitting on the kitchen counter, and it was covered in dirty fingerprints. Suddenly, Rachel saw the top of a green head poking up from behind the kitchen counter. Look, she exclaimed, it's a goblin. Okay, read the rest of this to find out what happens next. Bye-bye, see you next time on the next Ella Key Fashion Stop Motion Baking and More video. Don't forget to watch every day.